and I love winter. And Hamad, I just ordered my new skateboard last week, and it's coming from the United States. I hope Trump doesn't stop it, but yeah, it will be here soon. Yeah, now let's just start our topic. So it's week two, so week two already, and we are going to dive into Python. So those who have only one monitor, probably it will be a good idea to split your screen into half horizontally, not to vertically, because our code today is going to be pretty short. So it will be much easier to see top and bottom, whichever you like. So the first question is, why do we want to use Python? Why? Yes, thank you, Yuni. If you have any question, raise your hand, and or you can just ask. Always, it's fine. And why do we want to use Python? There is no reason actually. There is no reason to use Python, but we use Python because many people actually use it. It is like a language for modeler. Um, you speak, like I speak Korean, and I also speak a little English, and I speak some other um dialect of Korean. And there are people who speak like Indian and Chinese and many other languages here. I'm pretty sure more than 20 languages exist um in this core, at least 20. But when we speak all together, we use English, right? So Python is like that. It's just a language for data scientists and language for many other programmers. Um, why? Usually because Python is popular. One of the world's most widely used programming language. Python is not only for modelers or data scientists, but Python is very generic programming language so that you can use for many other purposes. And also NASA or Netflix and Google, they all use Python. For example, there is very famous Python module called TensorFlow, which is machine learning algorithm made by, I think it was Google, if I'm not wrong. You need to double check it, but probably Google. And they wrote the code for Python as well. That's the very start when people started, data scientists started to use Python a lot. So next is Python is high level code. There are two different types of code you can think of. One is high level, another is easy, right? No, not this finger. Another one is low level language. So usually high level language is much friendly to users, right? Like Python. So it's much easier for programmers, but low level language is much easier for computer. So when you need higher performance, you definitely want to use lower level language like C or assembly. If if it still exists. So you can usually, as a data scientist or modeler, all you need to focus on is what you actually want to do, right? Rather than how this computer will interpret it. In this case, high level language is totally more than enough to use it. And third reason is Python is objective oriented. This is a quite important concept. I'm not sure if we will have enough opportunity to discuss about this opportunity oriented concept, but it means when you send one like function, we don't call it function, but when you send, it's more like method for objective oriented, but when you send a function or method, this method or function can include data as well and each output as well. So as a just one package, that's how objective oriented works. Why do we use it? Because it's reusable quite easily and it can be modular so that you can send just one of your code to another person to use it. And the last reason that we use Python is because it's scripting language. Also, there are two different types of language. One is script language. Another is interpreter-based language. So for example, in case of script, when you write it, you get the answer right away, line by line. But when you need the interpreter, you don't get the output right away. You need to make entire code first and then you run it and then you get the output. The big difference is when there's a bug or when there's an error in the code, in case of a script language, you can see the error or bug right away. But when it's not script language, you can't see the result or error until you actually compile it and run it, right? So that makes the process be more difficult. However, the benefit of using compiling language is it's much faster, about 100 times faster. Like, for example, in case of C++, it's about 100 times faster than Python, but it takes more than 100, about 100 times more time to write the code. So it takes much more time of yours, right? So that's the difference. So when you need to do something simple, quite easily right away. And when you see the simple when you want to do simple calculation, always use Python. But when you want to make a commercial program, Python is not the best option. Probably C++ or Java, or there are lots of other options as well. So why Python is so popular, but how popular is it? So almost all programming language, I mean, there are a lot of programming language, more than this, pretty sure more than 100 different programming language exist in this world, like real language, quite a lot. However, about 23 or 24% of people, programmers actually use Python. And next one is C++, only about 11%, but C++ is very strictly, not strictly, is very focused on low-level techniques. So not many data scientists actually use it. Data scientists usually use, give me 1 second. What is wrong with this? Where's my mouse? Where's my cursor? Actually. So data scientists usually use Python and then Java. But Python is always clear winner when you consider the time that you need to use for programming. I'm going to delete this. Okay. So probably maybe something not in line. Probably this could be better. Okay. So Python is, as I just told you, Python is very popular in data scientists, almost the data scientists, due to its simplicity and readability and lots of ecosystem. When we say ecosystem, it means libraries. Like when you go to shop, if there's only, let's say we want to go to shop, we want to buy a skateboard. And so we went to a shopping mall to find it. But if there's only one brand, there's nothing we can choose but just that brand. But there are, let's say, there are 10 different brands with 10 different techniques or technologies and things. There are lots of things you can choose from it, right? So that's the line. That's basically the ecosystem. When people say there is a big ecosystem for Python, it means there's a lot of people using it and lot of off-the-shelf libraries that you can use right away. That include pandas, NumPy, and scikit-learn, and there are a lot more like GeoPandas and Polars and etc. and etc. So this makes people's life much easier. If there is no library like a TensorFlow to do machine learning, you need to start from making very low code, how to very detailed code on importing the numbers and dealing with all the statistics and everything. But when you use TensorFlow, all you need to do is import the library and put the numbers, and you get the result right away. So easier. So that means when you have rich ecosystem of libraries, your life can be much easier. And also Python is very scalable. So Python can be used in different computers, for example, computer systems. Even if the Python code is written in Windows, it doesn't matter. It will run exactly same on Linux or Mac as well. And we have very strong community support. If you ask anything about Python on what's the name of that? Not GitHub. Sorry, I forgot. There is very big community Python community, which I'm going to share later, is basically programmers community where you can ask any questions and where you can get the answers for it. However, we don't use it these days. We just use ChatGPT. But still, having a very strong community support means you have more detailed answer when you ask something on GPT. Thank you so much. And Stack Overflow. That's the one I wanted to say. Yeah. So, but these days we use just ChatGPT. So Stack Overflow, we don't use it much, like before. And Python is open source and free. I mean, not every single libraries are open source, but usually Python is open source, and people uh, tends to stick with this policy, so that when you code on Python, usually you can expect these people will um, like publish their source where usually on GitHub. I hope we will have opportunity to learn about GitHub later because Uni is pretty good with it. And so we are going to go through very basic grammar on Python. We have lots of workshops to go through today, about 30 pages of workshop. So let's go through one by one. We need to understand the grammar. So programming language is no different with real language. If you know the grammar, as soon as you know the word, you can use the language, right? Not that easy, I know, but it's basically that's how it works in Python. If you know the grammar and if you know the word or vocabulary, you can use it. So first, very important one is indentation. So when you use Python, you don't use code blocks. Always you just use space, right? Let's go to, we will go through this later, so I'm not gonna do the workshop at the moment. So let's see. Here is condition. So somehow my computer is not really working as I expected, but it should be fine. Good. So you can hear if x is bigger than 0, which means this is condition, right? Print positive, but you can see space, which I grayed out. This is a space. Usually we use just one tab, right? So when you write it, so for example, if we want to copy the code, if x is larger than 0, we definitely need this comma and colon, and then go add and say print something. This means when the value x is larger than 0, for example, when value is 1, then 1 is larger than 0, right? Then print positive. That's it is. But we need a tab. Why do you need tab? If we don't have the tab, those are the same line. Those two lines have in the same letter, which means this print something is not inside of the if condition. So we need to put it inside of the if condition. That's how it works. And then we have different data types. There are some common data types include int, which is from integer, and float. Float is 10.00 or 001 or something like that. And we have a string, which is basically character. And we have Boolean, which is true or false. Remember, Python takes differently when you have different capital in a string. For example, TRE without capital T is not same, right? So true with capital T is not same with true without capital T. Always you need to remember that. And there are some variables. Variable means a place where you can save your data. For example, if we say name is Alice, then now name has a value of Alice, and this value is string. And age is 25. If we define age as 25, age, when you call age, it will return you the number 25, integer number 25. You don't need to define if 25 is integer or float, right? Python will take it as integer if it's integer, and if it is float, it will take it as float. You don't need to worry about that part. And one of the important things that you need to remember is this sharp. You can use sharp to explain or disable the code, right? So let's go through this later in the workshop. And we have functions, basically reusable block of code. Let's say we have this. Thank you. So this means we define function name greet with parameter name. So this function greet will take parameter name always. And then when it gets name, it will return print hello name. So if I send Sangyan, my name, as parameter, it will print hello Sangyan as return. And we have conditional, we already saw that, right? It basically controls the flow. We have if and else. And also we have elif, which means else if. So if age is over 18, print adult, right? And if not, minor. So not always, but basically this is what it is. And then we have a loop. Let's assume we want to run through a same function. Let's say this greet name, greet function, like 10 times. We don't want to write it 10 times, right? We can just say, for fruit in fruit, which means we have fruit in a list, apple and banana. And for fruit in fruit, this means we go single fruit in this list and then print each fruit here. I know this is complex. I know this can be a little bit difficult to understand at the moment, but don't worry, you will get it anyway. And then this part is, yeah, thank you, Dinita. Print is literally to print something. When you use this print function, it prints something inside of these two brackets. Hope I answered correctly. And then the next one, we can use external library. For example, in this case, we import math. Why? Because in very basic Python format, it doesn't have a function for square root or whatsoever. It only has a plus, minus, multiplication, and division. That's what we have. Okay, Uni?
Would it be possible to differentiate for and while? I always get confused about these two.
Oh yeah, we will do that later, not at the moment. Because it is a little tricky. But for, basically when you run for, it uses the list of numbers or certain range that you already set. For example, let's go through 10 times or something like that. But when you use while, usually you don't set the number of times, but you set the condition. That's the difference. That's correct. Thank you, Paolo. And then there are some others. We have a list stored. We already stored a list, right? We can store multiple values in one variable. For example, if we have a float equals apple, let me write it. Let's say fruit equals apple. The variable fruit will have the value, only one value, which is apple, right? However, if we make fruit with fruit is apple, banana, and cherry, then it will have 3 different values, and it is called a list. And another one we need to remember is class. And definitely sure we are not going to cover this part because class is something that you don't need always. It may make your life easier and may not. So you don't need to use it always, but it is another concept that you can create custom object so that it can have a sort of function, but which is called method in class, not function. And then you can add values and other data and everything you need inside, and then you can send this class to someone else, or you can use this class with a different name in your own code. And then, as I said, this function in a class is called a method. So there is big difference between method and function in the sense.